Make sure that the tears are visible, you know.
Yeah, please stop
That's
touching. Alright. Oh, this is the wrong episode title, but I'll fix that. Welcome to our Boku no Hero Academia review. I'm your host, Cinder Blaze. With me today we have...
Strange word.
And Makotoa.
Alright, Michael, I'm changing the title. Start us off.
Wow, Jordan, you put it, I guess, better than I could. I mean, and better than anyone else could, really, and that's just best episode, right? Like, wow. I think in the previous episode before this, we were doing some like sort of speculation and prediction stuff. At least me and Alex were, because you've already read
Yeah,
the
yeah.
manga, Jordan.
I couldn't say anything.
And you couldn't say anything. And I think I mentioned something like that, this could possibly be the point where All Might goes out. He like goes down, or he's out of commission. And now there's like he takes out the bad guy so that huge threat isn't looming, but it's almost like passing the buck to the next generation, where he can't use his powers anymore. The villain's either dead or, incapacitated, and now it's left to Midoriya, and that's pretty much how it went at this point, and it works so good, and it like I mean, wow, like the stuff that they have for All Might's past and his motivation and stuff, and like I don't even know where to.
All right. The term for it is passing the torch, and the symbolism for it was everywhere, even down to the fact that it was a fire that represented his power.
Mm-hmm.
And when after those last little embers went out, it passed on to Midoriya for the
Yeah, and like
last.
one thing I loved about this episode more than anything else was it just kind of like summarized everything that All Might meant to everyone. Like he was that number one hero, and he like proved it till like the very end. And that last punch, where he just kept on pushing. Like like that guy deserves to be like that symbol of peace, and like just like having that slight context in the backstory. Like we didn't get like an overwhelming like amount. Like there's like, okay, now here's like a 7-minute block of flashback. It's like, no, we only got snippets of conversations he's had with his sensei, stuff that his predecessor had with Gran Torino, just like little bits, and they all kind of just got weaved together. And once like he kind of like gathers all that up into his last punch, and after nailing that punch, he kind of like turns back into his regular All Might self, just to stand as like that symbol of peace for everyone else who's watching him. Whew. That was...
He's still working.
Yeah.
Gosh, man. This is like, what you'd always want. I don't know, a Superman type character to
that's
have.
what I was thinking too. Like that's just like Superman, but done well. I mean,
but done well,
no,
right?
No, he's the Superman in his really good moments, because Superman has had really good moments before.
Yeah.
It's just that he's got so much history that there's a bunch of bad as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and like
as much as
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh.
I was gonna say, as much as we want to like gawk over just how in awe we are of this episode as a whole, execution wise, like we could talk about the animation, we could talk about the sound, just like different characters coming out, like freaking Endeavor and calling out All Might. This guy who's lived all of his life chasing All Might's shadow, and to see that it's turned into this withered form of what he saw before, that wrecked him inside. He was pissed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh gosh, man, like you're right, Alex. This episode encompasses what All Might meant to everybody,
Yeah, and like judging by the preview, it's probably gonna have some ramifications in the following episode. But just like having it like All Might viewed from every angle. Like I didn't expect to see like Endeavor like have his side of like that whole rivalry. Like that was something that's mostly kind of pertained to him and like we would only delve into it when we go into Todoroki and his family business and stuff. But
Yeah.
no, like this was like All Might's story, and they decided to put Endeavor in this just to kind of just, you know, it kind of bolstered what it meant. Like he has to be that symbol for everyone, like even for the heroes that surround him. Like everyone, like Kamui Woods, the ninja dude, like they all like look up to him as like the number one. He's like, come on, we're all believing in you.
All the people too, you just kept hearing, and it was like, wait, well, is All Might hurt? But he's gonna save the day anyways, right? Like their hope, they've gotten so comfortable just hoping in him that suddenly despair starts to settle in, and you see it like this almost hysteria break out, and people start freaking out, and then they're like, cheering him on, and like, gosh, that is such a I love moments like that. I love moments where everyone kind of comes together and roots for the good guy and stuff. And like, we hear it in the monologue by the old man saying that their hopes and prayers, they're rooting for you, All Might. Can't you hear them? And it's just like, it just builds up to this incredible moment. Good.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like executed beautifully. I don't.
Yeah.
Jordan, you probably could tell the difference between manga and anime.
Okay, so this I was waiting for you guys to talk, because this is definitely for you guys, because I've seen the moment, but I will say this much: this is probably one of the best anime adaptations I've ever seen, if not the best.
Wow.
Because it is insane how well they adapted it. Because I'm pretty sure all of us were just completely dead silent throughout that entire fight because of how amazing it was.
Yeah, like there's just nothing like we could say to that wouldn't break the mood. Like I was kind of like hoping for All Might as well. I was like, shit, is he gonna do this? Like how? Like you can like I was like, come on, you can do this. Just it reminds me of like Deku, but like for All Might, who's already been an established hero, like he doesn't really have that like underdog kind of aura surrounding him, like that's not how I was kind of like seeing him in this fight. It was just like I don't know, like I was probably just like being a fanboy of All Might in that moment, and I'm not like I haven't ever really been too attached to All Might because like I don't watch the season, the first season of the anime. I read it mostly, and like you don't have like as much time with All Might as you would in the anime adaptation, so it didn't really like. For the longest time, I was like, yeah, All Might's cool and all. He's just like this super OP, like Mary Sue. What, like what can they possibly do with him? And in this fight, it's just, I perfectly like understand his struggles as a hero, and I'm really, like, I appreciate the character. Like, what's his like real name again? Toshinori. I appreciate him a lot more than expected to.
I want to bring up a couple of things before we continue to like get too rambly, and those are the sort of reveals that happened this episode. One of them was that the previous owner of All for One, One for All, apparently their grandchild is Grabby Hand Face.
Yeah, Shigaraki Tomura.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure we'll find out more about why that just wrecked All Might to hear. I mean, it makes sense because that's your sensei, and then immediately after he has a flashback of her saying that like you change people's hearts too. And to think that like somehow he screwed up along the way, where somebody that was so close to someone you cared so much about and you were trying your best to be that, symbol of peace, where did it go wrong that one of her descendants went evil, right? Like, so that's one revelation, which I guess thickens the little plot we got going on.
I feel like in this episode that was probably like the weakest part of like that whole scene, because like the way like All Might kind of broke down, I kind of wish there was like a little bit more context as to like why he would feel like so hurt, because like I'm not even sure if he ever met Tomura beforehand. Like maybe he did, but like I don't know that kind of going or during the scene itself.
Yeah, so, it could be like it's something we are unaware of at the moment, and like it didn't take too long and
Yeah.
we got back into the him getting hyped. But then the other moment I want to mention or touch on is that our big baddie villain, before he threw his last punch, he was like, I can already tell just by fighting you. You've already passed the torch to someone else. It was Midoriya, isn't it? Calls him out by name. He's like, you've failed him as a teacher now. I know. And then after, it's like that implied after I kill you, he's next type thing. Oh, I mean, that probably, I guess, with him incarcerated, I don't know what the repercussions of that are going to be from here on out, but um, the villain, the head honcho villain, knows that Midoriya is the next one for all, and I guess it's kind of like who knows the secret, right? Maybe I wouldn't doubt that our gosh, I keep forgetting his name, hand-faced dude. He probably knows too. I'm sure at the very least he knows, but
Yeah.
I guess that's just these are things that actually, besides the actual fight and outcome of it, those are things that we got some information revealed to us about this episode. But
Yeah, and I feel like the stuff with Tomura, like, I'm kind of glad that they're not going too far into it right now, because I feel like that's something that should be resolved in his character arc. But it's kind of like a little snippet, like a little tease as to what can actually kind of like screw things up later, and just it adds more weight to his character. So for when he actually becomes a more prominent antagonist, I'm not sure if he's going to be like back in the front seat again for the next arc, but I honestly doubt it. Like, after something like this happens, you kind of have to like die low and then come back with like greater strength than ever before.
Yeah.
So who knows how that will affect his development as a villain, especially being the grandson of One For All user. Also, I kind of wanted to know more about the relationship between All For One and One For All, because I think he said that he created the power in the first place. So
that does get touched upon later.
All right.
It's touched upon before. I remember there was an episode where we learned about it when All Might was sort of spilling the beans about his power to Midoriya at one point. He mentioned this, horrible villain that, severely injured him.
Okay, it was touched on earlier as well.
It was touched
I wasn't sure about the chronology of it because it's been a while since the early chapters, but basically, what One For All created was he gave a strength power to...
We might not want to talk about it because I don't know how touched upon it was, so if you say anything spoilery, we do not want to spoil it to everybody.
It's just what the power is.
Yeah, I feel like I want to save that for when they actually do kind of go for the deep dive in the anime.
It's not... it's okay, yeah. All right.
Just for all of our anime only.
For our safety.
Just in case it wasn't early on, it just...
Yeah.
I got you.
And I think like the last thing to kind of really touch upon is that last little signal that All For One All Might gave like the audience of that news broadcast, and just like, all right, now it's your turn. Like my first kind of impression of that was like, oh, he's talking to Midoriya and like how he's gonna be the successor for All Might. But then when he actually explains it and saying like, oh, like that's also like a message for the villains. And honestly, after he smashed that guy's face in, who really wants to like step up to the plate now? They gotta have balls of steel. So the impact of that scene was kind of real nice. Any other thoughts regarding like just the end of the episode, I guess?
Alright, nothing much. I just want to say it was just really good, and I can't say anything to avoid spoilers.
Alright. Okay, and I think we should just end this review with that. Guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all the other junk down below. Check our description. We have neat stuff down there too. Just check it out. We'll catch you next time. Keep it juicy.
Yep.
Later.
Alright. That was a weird outro. Whatever.
Doesn't matter. It's. Hey man, this episode.
Yeah, there's like, comment, subscribe, check out the junk. I mean, no one ever looks at descriptions anyways, unless there's like fancy little links for giveaways, which you're not really gonna be doing for a while.